So today we're going to talk about how to navigate a shifting or a changing market. And obviously, we've all experienced it probably since last, let's say July or August to now. Things feel different. It's not as fast-paced. We've got some uncertainty in the market space. Buyers are sitting on the sidelines, waiting a little bit longer because they're trying to time their interest rate purchase, right? Have the rates peaked and are they going to start coming down, or are we going to see some more interest rate volatility throughout the year, which ultimately, pushes buyers to the sidelines. We also have some situations where home sellers are sitting on mortgage rates below 3% in some instances, or, certainly below 4%. And so we have less of this conversation happening about, wouldn't it be great if we just moved to a new house because we want something bigger, or I'm tired of this kitchen and now I want something, better and brighter. Those conversations, that's a harder pill to swallow when you go from, a 2 to 3% interest rate, now talking into the 5s, 6, possibly 7% interest rate. So in today's podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about how, yes, the market is changing. Yes, we need to embrace this change, but certainly it's not going to crash. And we have data that's going to back up this information. And so I want to run through some of it with you. If you were to look at or listen to the media and everybody out there, from NBC, ABC, you name it, your local evening news, pick your poison, it's doom and gloom for the real estate market. And you know why that is because doom and gloom sells, right? The media wants to portray something that is wildly catastrophic when in reality, it's not that bad. But again, negativity and drama, that's what increases the ratings. So we're going to talk a little bit about why it's not going to crash and why the market is still poised to do very well. Granted, we should expect change and we should be planning for change. And certainly the number of homes sold, as many economists and folks say, did peak at the end of last year. And so we have to prepare. But in order to prepare, we have to know kind of what we're preparing for and how we're preparing as we move later into this year. So let's talk a little bit about interest rates, right? So obviously, we went from an environment where rates were at historic lows, and the increase in interest rates, while interest rates always fluctuate, one would argue that increase happened way, way too quickly, right? Obviously, we have the Fed trying to curb inflation and other, larger economic factors to help prevent us from going into a recession. And so the rise in interest rates hopefully helped to slow consumer spending and ultimately bring things back into balance. But mortgage interest rates, as we saw, shot up, which really shocked the market and pulled a lot of buyers out of the picture because it was a hard pill to swallow when you went from looking at, now what was a $400,000 to $500,000 property. Well, the interest rate increased and your affordability just drastically decreased. But hopefully we're going to see those interest rate numbers stabilize throughout this year. I would anticipate that we're going to see some fluctuation, but our goal is hopefully that we stay within that mid to high 5s, maybe low 6s, according to some industry analysts. So in that range, we should see some really good, if not strong, buyer demand. What needed to happen is for the market to balance and stabilize, for the buyer to then re-enter the space to realize this is what our new normal is. And everyone needs to buy and sell a home. Everyone needs a place to live. And as we all know, rent prices in Central Ohio are through the roof. So we become in tune with this is what our new reality is. And so we just have to adjust to it. Takes a minute, and then everything starts to move forward from there. So I anticipate as we look into the latter part of 2023, we're going to start to see some really good buyer demand. And I think a lot of us are seeing that now, just within the first 45 days of the year. we're seeing listings come on and sell as if it were this time last year. Granted, we're not receiving 20 and 30 offers, but we certainly are seeing really, really strong buyer interest in new listings. So let's talk about new listings. We are still in a struggle for inventory. And that, folks, is why this market is poised to do very, very well as we move into the latter part of this year. New listings, if we were to track since January of 2017 to today, our new listing total numbers are down. This past January was the lowest new listing numbers that we've seen in that, data set. So inventory is still incredibly challenging. It's still incredibly tight. For many of the reasons that we spoke about earlier, many sellers are reluctant to put their home on the market because they don't want to trade their 2 and 3% interest rate for a 7, 6, or even maybe a 5% interest rate. But, that's okay, right? We are starting to see some inventory levels. So while inventory is at the lowest levels that it has been, since January, tracking those Januaries, right, from January 2017 to January 2023, we are starting to see some of that inventory stay on the market a little bit longer, which is giving buyers an opportunity to think, to negotiate, to have a second look, to not feel like they're having to make really fast, pressured decisions. And so that's adding some stability and some balance back to the market space, right? So our month supply of inventory levels have increased. We're now nationally at about 2.9 months supply of inventory. So, there are also industry analysts are talking, or you hear on the news about foreclosure activity. And while certainly we are seeing an increase in the number of foreclosure properties that are coming to the market, those numbers are still significantly below what they were pre-pandemic levels. So even though, yes, we are seeing a drastic increase year over year, is it really fair for us to compare those numbers to 2022's data when we were really in a historic, time in real estate? So even though, yes, the media may say foreclosure activity is on the rise, it certainly is compared to last year. However, those numbers are still far, far below pre-pandemic levels, and we're not even getting close to the market crash where those numbers were in 2008, 9, and 10. Total home sales, again, this is kind of all in how you spin it. Certainly, we are seeing a drastic decline in the total number of homes sold. And the reason is because when comparing these statistics from January of 2022 to January of 2023, yes, there is a vast spread in those numbers, which creates a statistic that, when sensationalized, makes you think, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. When in reality, we may be coming back to a more stabilized, normal, balanced market, right? But comparatively speaking, yes, we'll say the sky is falling. It's not like what it was in January and February of 2022. We can't expect it to be. Things are changing. We need to adjust to the change. We need to take this data and we need to communicate that to our home buyers and sellers so that we can provide them some element of confidence as they approach the market and they start their own journeys to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. Number of pending home sales is down in all regions of the country nationally. We're down 33.8%. Here in the Midwest, we're actually faring much better than some of our other regional counterparts. We're down only 30.1%. The biggest decline in the number of pending home sales comes out of the West region, which is down 37.5%. Again, going back to those inventory numbers, here in Ohio, our inventory numbers are off 13.9%. Year over year, nationally, we're off about 9.3%. So, all that being said, change is here. It's happening. We can't avoid it. All we can do is embrace it, understand what the market is telling us, and be more prepared and educated as we move into the market to help our clients and help serve them better. Mortgage interest rate predictions through 2023, we're expecting those interest rates to be pretty high in the first quarter. They're going to start to fall second quarter, third quarter, and into the fourth quarter. So we tend to see that maybe the beginning part of the year is the peak of that interest rate number, and then we're going to see it fall or taper down into Q4. On average, maybe we anticipate that number is going to be hopefully mid 5% range. And again, that leads to really good, strong buyer demand once interest rates hit that number and then level off and stabilize. So as we prepare our businesses and as we look at what we're projecting moving into the balance of the year, many industry analysts are expecting about a 20 to 30% decrease in the total number of units sold in 2023. I think we're going to see a majority of that decrease happening in the first quarter, and I hope that the balance of Q3 and Q4, we're going to see a really great run up to hopefully, level things off as we move, into the end of the year. So what does all this mean for us, as real estate professionals, as we look at our businesses and we look at our, career? There's going to be some change as it relates to, the number of licensed realtors. Unfortunately, there are going to be, and I hate to say it, some agents who aren't able to weather the storm, who will decide, man, this is just not worth it, and I'm going to, put my license on hold or on deposit with the state and go back to that full-time corporate position where I know I'm going to get paid every 2 weeks. That's the reality of it, folks. That's just what happens. It happened back when the market crashed in 2008 through 2010. And yes, it's going to happen again. And it's inevitable because when you look at stats, right? National Association of Realtors, 49% of licensed agents made less than $50,000 in 2022. 71% of licensed agents made less than $100,000. So where do you fall? And do you want to be one of those statistics? I certainly hope not, but it requires some action, some effort, and some clarity around our business to be able to, again, weather the storm. Now, other interesting stats, right? We've got 25% of all realtors have only been in the business 2 years. I will say another statistic that is important for us to know, 29% of all realtors only did 5 transactions or less last year. 48% or around 50% did 10 or fewer transactions. So agents, I'm talking to you. We don't want you to be another statistic. We don't want you to fall victim to the changing dynamics of the market. It requires us as professionals to wake up, take action, do better, be better, and really focus on what's going to drive revenue for our business as we move into this kind of uncertain and changing environment. So give that some thought. If we can help in any way, feel free to reach out. And that's all I have to say about that.